Yo, what's going on, guys? Welcome back to Ball Hour. Been missing you guys. Hopefully you guys are excited for this video. You've been enjoying the other ones. If you haven't already watched them, make sure you go do that now before you watch this one. Make sure always like, comment, subscribe, sharing. But yeah, today we got a guest. She goes by the name of Sophie Panons. I know I got the name right. We cleared that up at the start. So yeah, but yeah, Sophie is a sports therapist, and yeah, she's in the non-league game, so she's gonna tell her side, the things that she's experienced, challenges she's faced, and how she's found the non-league game. So with that being said, Sophie, how are you? How have you been?
Not bad, same old, pretty busy. I'm kind of missing not having football. I'm so used to having it 3 times a week, and now it's gone completely silent, radio silent, not doing anything, just sort of plodding along and just waiting for it to come back in mid-June, really.
So what are you doing in the steps up to then? And have you just been enjoying yourself? Because I mean, guys, if you look at the belt, yeah, it blinded my eyes.
Don't do that.
I even started on my words. No, but how have you been in the period up to obviously waiting for mid-June to come?
Well, I'm actually training to become a teacher at the moment, so that's literally been taking up all of my time. So I'm either at uni twice a week or I'm in placement 3 times a week. I work a part-time job at JD Sports as well.
All right.
So I'm pretty busy all the time. Yeah,
there.
exactly. You know about that. Yeah, so if I'm not teaching, I'm doing physio or sports therapy stuff. Or if I'm not doing that, then I'm teaching or I'm at JD. So I'm pretty busy all the time. But I just need football back, really. I do.
You know what? It's crazy to say that because I'm so used to hearing women saying, "Oh, it's football again. It's football again," or even just "Oh, he's playing FIFA again." So
yeah,
it's quite refreshing to actually hear that. But how have you found your non-league experience? So what teams have you been at to start off with? Let's start from there.
So when I was at uni, so my final year at uni, we had to do a placement. So I was working with Welwyn Garden City Football Club. Don't know if you've heard of them.
Unheard of to me.
So I went to University of Hertfordshire, so Welwyn Garden City's in the Hertfordshire region. So I did a voluntary placement there. Then once I graduated from uni, I went to Basildon United, and then after there I left, and then I've joined Grays Athletic now. So I'm at Grays at the moment, but I haven't actually met any of the players. I haven't really met any staff yet because I don't start until mid-June. So it started at Welwyn and now I'm at Grays.
And are you looking forward to meeting the players?
I can't wait. I really can't wait. I got welcomed with such open arms, even though all I was announced on Twitter, and that was it. And I had a couple of players follow me on Twitter, a couple on Instagram, got added straight to the management group chat, was welcomed in. But I think the players is really what makes it. Yeah. I know it sounds quite cliche, but being a woman in a male-dominated sport is very challenging. And I think when you work in a squad of men that are older as well, they really take you on like you are a sister or a daughter, and it's just unbelievable.
See, touching on that, how important is that for you? Because let's be real, in a men's game, right, obviously we talk about women and obviously other things in that. And when a physio comes in, if she's pretty, guys are looking left, right, oh, who's she? Is she single? So how important is it for you that people do take you on like that, welcome you with open arms, look at you as a younger sister? But how important is it to also establish boundaries that, look, I'm just here for work, that's it, no relationship is materializing from here?
Well, I sort of relate it to how I am at school. So when I'm teaching, developing that rapport with your students translates so well to football, because you have to balance that friendliness with firmness. And I'm there to do a job just as much as their gaffer is, or just as much as their goalkeeper coach. Just because I'm young and I'm pretty or whatever, it doesn't mean that you can start pushing the boundaries and thinking you can get away with things. I'm there to do a job just as much as everyone else. And I think initially it's a little bit oh, we're going to try and impress her, but I honestly look and think, come on, you're at least 8 years older than me. I'm not going to look at you and think yeah, okay, I might try and get with you. And I always say don't mix pleasure with business. And I think that's really important, because I have done it. I'll hold my hands up when I was on placement, but it doesn't get in the way if you don't let it. But it can, if things go badly, you then have to go into training and you're oh, don't really want to walk up and spud each other, and it's really awkward. It's just, and also one thing to pick up on is when you work with a squad of younger boys, especially when I was at Basildon, and they've got girlfriends, they cannot stand having a female that's working with their boyfriend. And I'm really? If No, come on. All I want to do is just strap his ankle up and he's just going to go and play.
Just strap his ankle.
That's all I need to do. I don't need to have lots of conversation with him. All I want to do is strap his ankle up and he's going on the pitch. Like, that's it. It's really nothing. And I think that's what's challenging as well. I've been like stalked by girls. I'm like, really? I'm not interested.
What, the DMs where it's like, I'm just coming to you as a woman.
Yeah.
Or anything
What's X, Y, and Z like when you're at training? I'm like, I don't know, because they're on the pitch and I'm on the sidelines. What do you want me to tell you? If it went any further, then I'd say, like, come on, like, you've got a girlfriend kind of thing. But I don't know. It is weird. It depends what club you're at and the age of the players that you're with. When I was at Basildon to start with, it was a men's side. Then obviously the whole change happened and it was like an under-23 side came in from Bowers and Pitsea.
Yeah.
So it was a big change in the sense that they were all quite young. And I think they thought, oh, she's around our age. We can probably push the boundaries a little bit. And sometimes you have to get on with them. But then there comes a point where you're like, you need to stop kind of thing.
See, that was going to be my next question. Because sometimes people's way in to get to know you and to kind of like build a relationship is like to try and flirt. You know, drop the... like plant the seed and start.
Yeah.
Like, forgive me, but I'm just speaking truth because I've been there, like seeing man and be like, who's she? Like, go try your luck in it. Like, see how it goes on. So, I mean, does part of you have to accept the flirting that happens just to be like, okay, let me lure them in, get them on my side, and then boom, alright, we're friends now.
Yeah.
Let's get on.
I think it's sort of, you can let it happen if you don't give too much back, because your management sees everything that obviously goes on, and if they start to see you're developing a little bit more of a closer relationship to one player than you are with another. Like, once I was at training and I was sitting next to one of my players and my gaffer came over and was like, oh, are you two flirting like this? And I thought, no, I'm just sitting here trying to have a drink and just sitting with my players. Like, it's normal, because if that was a man in the room, it wouldn't even an eyelid would not be battered. Do you know what I mean? People just would look at it and be like, whatever. But because it's a female around, I have to emphasize boys, because they're younger than me, so it's like, they're boys. I'm not interested at all. And even if I was, like, I wouldn't bring it into the club. I'd deal with it outside of it, really.
One thing you keep on saying is my boys or my team. Like,
yeah,
most sports therapists or physios I know, they're just there to come in and do a job.
Yeah.
But this one sounds like you really want to be a part of it. And how important is that for you in order for you to do your job well or to have a sustaining career in terms of the team that you're at, or career-wise, basically?
I think if I was there to just do a job, I'd go in, head down, like, just get on with it. But I think it makes it more enjoyable, and I did think about it when I was looking through, like, some prep. I was like, really, having a close relationship with your players and your staff makes things easier in case things go wrong. So, for example, if something happened with one of my players and I didn't really get on with my coaching staff, who am I meant to go to if something did happen? I just think it makes things so much more enjoyable, and you feel like a part of them and you're not just there like a sore thumb. And I think, as I keep saying, being a woman in a male-dominated sport, if you're just sitting there like, oh, don't really want to get involved, then you're more out of place than you were in the initially. Yeah. So I think, I don't know, I've been brought up with, like, my brother and my dad, just football all the time. So being involved in an environment like that, to me, is just second nature. So I feel like I'm a bit of a geezer bird when I go into when I go into football.
Yeah, I was just about to say, like, when the guys are having banter in the change room, like, what's that like? Do you ever get involved?
Yeah,
or like, when it gets a bit too much, you'd be like, boys, hang on here.
To be fair, I think they like to try me with some things, and I nibble quite a lot. So if I nibble, they'll keep on doing it, and I'm just like, oh no. But they do sometimes overstep the mark, and I'm like, whoa, like, come on now, let's not do that. And then straight away they'll stop. But I can't go into a change room and not get on with them, because it's a bit awkward just like sitting there on the physio table like. So I think I am a bit of a geezer bird when it comes to male banter, because like I said, I've been brought up with it for the past 21 years. My brother and my dad just hammering me all the time, so it's just normal for me.
What team do you support?
West Ham.
Oh god. Oh god. You've bottled Champions League, haven't you?
Yeah.
She said,
talk
yeah. No, but moving on to your time at Basildon, what was that like?
Initially, when I was brought in by Alex, it was actually really good. I worked alongside some amazing players, amazing coaching staff. Joe Flower, I like Joe. He's like probably one of my favourites. Some of the players were just amazing because they were older. They sort of, like I say, treat me like a sister, treat me like one of their own. And it started off really, really well. And it was my first ever gig in like non-league since graduating. So obviously I worked with Welling, but it wasn't too much of a serious full-time thing. So when I joined in at Basildon, I was really quite apprehensive, like, are they going to take to me? Am I going to experience like what we said about the flirting and things like that? But I went in and it was just unbelievable. And like, shout out to the players, because I think without them and being how kind and welcoming they were, I probably would have hated it. And then obviously there was a big shift after our FA Cup game when we played a band player, and it all just went a bit woo, tits up basically. And we got a new manager in, and he came in, and obviously it's probably the naivety of me to think, oh, I won't get replaced, I won't have a whole squad come in, I won't have a whole new management team. But obviously that's what happens when a manager comes over. They bring all their staff, they bring all their players, and I didn't think it would happen. But I guess that's just because I'd been in the club for like 3 months, and suddenly it just changed. And that's when it sort of went a bit okay.
Were you treated differently in terms of like they didn't say directly to you, all right, you've got to go. They kind of just actioned it, saying, making you feel like less involved in the team. And
to be honest, it started off the same, very welcoming. Or like, because initially I was the only original that was there, because obviously all management left, I stayed, and then it was brand new management, brand new players. So it was like, oh well, I'm the only one that's still here. So really, is it like they're gonna walk around me for a bit and then they'll try and sort of guide me out? But I was there for 4 or 5 months before anything really happened, and then obviously talk was going on. And when you in non-league, people talk, and if I don't hear one thing from one person, I'm gonna hear it from someone else. And there's no loyalty in the game either, and unfortunately I had to learn that the hard way. And I thought, I'm being loyal to myself. There was multiple. I had an opportunity to go to Billericay when I was at Basildon, Bowers when I was at Basildon, but I said no, because I thought that's my home club, like that's my local club, gonna support them. And then it obviously backfired when someone else got brought in, and I was offered to stay. Don't get me wrong, I was offered to stay at Basildon, but then I got told, you're going to have to sit on the, like, in the stands. You won't be allowed to sit in the dugout. And I thought, so I'm basically becoming a fan now, turning up to games and sitting in the stands rather than sitting in the dugout. I said, I'm fine with like working alongside someone who's probably got more experience and is a little bit more of an expert in the area. But I've gone from number 1 to number 2. Do you know what I mean? So I've gone from being the top dog to being like
starting all over again.
Yeah.
So what did that do to your confidence, and how did you, kind of gather yourself to go again to your appointment at Grays?
Well, I completely wanted to stop. I got the phone call whilst I was at work. So when I was at JD, I got the phone call, this is what's going to happen. And I thought, right, do you know what? Forget it. I don't want to do football anymore, because that's just, if that's happened there, is it going to happen again?
Yeah.
And then I put my tweet out, saddened to say I'm leaving Basildon, blah, blah, blah. And then Basildon tweeted the same thing. And then 5 hours later, they tweeted that they're announcing their new physio. So they didn't even give it time for me to be like, see you later, bye. 5 hours later, brand new, welcome X, Y, and Z to the Basildon side. And I thought, okay. So then I thought, okay, let me just put it out there that I'm looking for a club. And then I had Grays, Brentwood, I had Dunmow, I had literally loads of people around Essex messaging me, whether it was like commenting on the tweet or direct messaging me. But I thought, I just don't want to do it. I really don't want to do it, because I don't want to go through the same thing again of being welcomed into a club, maybe not getting on with players, maybe do anything like that. And it was just like, I just don't think I want to put myself through I was actually really upset, because I just thought this could have happened the day before when we had a game. We had a game and I was there, and I just felt something was wrong. There was a cold shoulder. I was sort of just pushed aside. And then the next day I got told, oh, by the way, this is what's happening. And I just thought, you could have told me yesterday when I was there.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? But
a little bit more respect.
I just sort of was like, okay, that's fine. I completely get that he's got obviously more expertise than me. It is what it is. Then I got a message from Jim Cooper directly on my tweet, who's the gaffer at Grays. And he was just like, oh, I'd love to like have a conversation. And I was like, oh yeah, maybe we'll see what's going on. Let him give me a message in like DMs, and I gave him my number. And then it was sort of went back and forth for a little bit, because at this time I was applying for jobs for teaching, and I didn't really know where I was going to go or end up with my teaching, and whether I'd still be in Essex. So it's like I didn't want to sort of commit to any clubs in Essex in case I was moving perhaps up north a little bit, down south. I literally didn't know where I was going. So I sort of said, oh, I've actually got an interview in a couple of weeks. Is it all right if I give you an answer after that? And he was like, yeah, that's fine. And in this space, I was talking to Brentwood as well. So I was going back and forth with Brentwood Town as well as Grays. And I was just like, really trying to weigh up my options, because I had some help from Basildon. Basildon did guide me into, I've heard good things about this place, heard good things about this place, blah, blah, blah. But Grays has always been a club that stood out to me, because they have a good setup in regards to under 18s, under 23s. They've got women's sides as well. And I thought, you know what, I think Grays might be the one for me, because they seem to be eager and they want to have someone like me there. So I thought, oh, like I say, give it a couple of days and just see. But he was so eager and he was so passionate about having me there, and I thought that's just drawn me in straight away, because a lot of the time, again, going back to the being pretty, do they want me just because I'm an attractive person, or do they want me because I'm good at what I do? Is it like a way to draw fans in that we've got someone attractive on the team, or is it because they actually do need a sports therapist? Because I also found out that it's a tick box as well, being a sports therapist, being a physio, having a first aider. When you're in a league game, you have to obviously put down who's your gaffer, who's your sports therapist, blah, blah, blah. And as soon as I found out, I was like, it makes a lot of sense as to why I was so dismissed when I was at other clubs, because it was just there to say, oh, we've got a physio, we're not going to get a fine, kind of thing, if you know what I mean.
Okay.
So it was sort of just put on, like,
for show. You just had to be there for show, just to help us out.
Yeah, just so that we won't get a fine as a club, because we haven't got a primary carer or a first aider. I was like, right, it makes a lot of sense now when I found that out.
One question I wanted to ask is, like, being, obviously, like you say, a woman in a male-dominated sport, to go through what you went through during that time and the way you reacted to it, obviously, you were just like, well, Bob's your uncle, I've got to go now.
Yeah.
Do you feel like you have to be more accepting of the wrongdoings that happen to you because you're a woman, and, you know, as they say, football is a very small world and people do talk.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're not accepting of it, the next job you might try and go for, he could be mates with Bob. And therefore you miss out on a job there. So do you feel like you have to find yourself holding your tongue back, or would you want to, like, be like, you know what, no, I've, you know, set it right, basically, set the record straight?
To be honest, the way I am as a person anyway, I'm never holding back. I'm never holding back, because I don't really hold my tongue. If something annoys me, you're going to know about it. I don't care who you are, where you're from. It doesn't bother me, because you need to know what you're doing is making other people happy, but it's upsetting me at the same time. Yeah. So I don't... it's like this, for example. I don't want this to go out and then people be like, oh, this is what Sophie's like, blah, blah, blah. But I don't think there's anything wrong with being honest. And I'm doing nothing but being honest. And it's not until you hear it from the horse's mouth what actually happened. Because as we say, people talk, but the whole time things were happening, it was all happening behind my back, but I knew what was going on. Yeah. So when it happened, it was less of a shock. Yeah. Because I already knew it was happening. I just didn't know when it was going to happen. Yeah. So although, yeah, you do find yourself accepting people's wrongdoings, but at the same time, I'll accept it, but I will tell you how I feel at the same time. I'll say thank you, but no thanks. Like, this is how I feel. Take it or leave it. It is what it is now.
So how has that, like, better prepped you in terms of, like, moving forward in your career? Would you be able to say, like, if you can now see the writing on the wall, you would act a lot sooner than you did prior to previously to your old situation that went on down at Basildon?
Yeah, I think I couldn't act on it because I shouldn't have known. That's the problem. So what was happening behind my back, or however people want to see it, I shouldn't have known that was happening. So if I'd acted on it, it probably would have got someone else into trouble and then someone else into trouble, and I didn't want to start getting other people involved. Do you know what I mean? So I was like, I'd rather just... I know it's happening. I just need to know when, and then it'll be fine. I really didn't want to get other people involved in the drama, because essentially Bowers and Pitsea and Basildon, rivals, local area, Basildon, Pitsea, around the corner from each other, and there's a rivalry there. And obviously the things that were happening were coming from clubs local to us. So
Yeah.
things were going to Basildon and then coming back to me, and then things were going to Bowers, going to, and then it was an awful, like, I don't even know, it was a mess, really.
Well, one question I have here, it might sound a bit crazy, but do you ever get paranoid sometimes being in the change room when you find that not just, I wouldn't, let me take out players, but you feel as if like managers are starting to spend more time with you, like they want to have you around. Do you ever feel like, I think you know what I'm trying to say here.
To be honest, I've never experienced it.
Yeah.
So I can't really answer that as probably as someone else could. But
Yeah.
I think, again, it might just me being naive. But if someone did treat me like that, I'd probably just think, oh, they're just treat me like I'm their daughter or something like that. But if it started to get a little bit more explicit or safeguarding concerns comes up, then obviously it's different. But I've never experienced it to a point where I'm a bit like, whoa, that's a bit weird. Because I don't know. Yeah, I haven't experienced. If anything, it's the players more than staff. But
I'm not trying to dig anyone out, by the way. I'm just, education purposes. Let's just say that. No, but also because you are very much a part of the team, and the way you say, you miss your boys, you're fully invested. Did you ever attend like a team night out with the?
No, I haven't. Not yet. And I'm a bit apprehensive to do so, being the only female. It's a little bit like,
What
this could go
completely left.
Yeah. So if that ever did happen and I did go on a night out, I'd probably be like, can I bring one of my mates, just so that there's someone to fall back on, because I don't want to be in an environment where I could feel intimidated, and if something did happen, what am I supposed to do? Because everyone's probably feeling the same sort of way in that approach. And I've been to the clubhouse, and obviously we've had some like photo days, and I've been a bit like, oh, people getting a bit close, but I wouldn't say it was anything for me to get my back up about. But yeah, I think team nights out will probably be the one where it might all happen and all come out, but I don't know.
You see who people are after a few drinks.
Yeah.
Now, last two questions for me. One is, being like we said, women in a male dominated sport, obviously pushing the women's game out there. If the opportunity came for you to go to a women's team to be a sports therapist, would you go? Because the money's, I don't believe, from what I've heard, the money's not great being a sports therapist or a physio in non-league football anyways. But would you go to the women's side of the game because it would help, like, give women the resources and the tools that they need to be better players, go out and perform, go and grow the women's game? Would you do that?
Most definitely. But I think, I don't know. I think I'd love to go into women's football, but because it's going to sound really bad, but it's not as popular, obviously, as men's football. Not because that's a bad thing, but just because like finding a job in a women's team is much harder. Because with obviously men's football, you go from like step 5 or even lower, ESL if you really want to, all the way up. You've got loads of opportunities, 20 teams in each league. It's just like there's more opportunities in men's football than there is with women's football. But I've not looked directly to join a women's team, so I can't really say whether there's as many opportunities as men's as there is women's. I'm not sure, but I would go into women's football. I think it would be a little bit more relieving, less weight on your shoulders, in the sense of, oh, are they gonna fancy me? Are they gonna try and crack on? Because it won't be like that. Whereas obviously men are a bit different. Like,
hey Tim, what's going on there? Son?
Yeah.
No, but just to clarify also, because we had this discussion earlier. We were trying to work out what's the difference between a sports therapist and a physio. I'm pretty sure if you said that to most people, they'll be like, aren't they just the same thing? So,
well, I get called physio all the time, even though I'm not. I just take it now because I think no one's gonna go, oh, sports therapist. Do you know what I mean? They just say. But
you want them to say that so you feel good about the title, innit?
Well, I think it's because sports therapy is in the shadows of physiotherapy. So when things like this come about and they ask what's the difference, I will try and get it out there as much as I can.
Yeah.
But the main difference really is that when you study with a physiotherapy, you do a lot of placements in the NHS, so you go into hospitals and things like that. Whereas a sports therapist, you do pitch side work, you work with sports teams. It's a little bit more sports injury based and how to deal with things like that. Whereas a physio, you'd be able to rehab someone back to day-to-day life. So if someone had a stroke, for example, a physio would go and see them and rehab them back to day-to-day life and fitness, whereas I'd have someone who's just had an ACL reconstruction and I would work with them. But it's not saying that physios can't do the same thing. I just think with the courses that we do, sports therapy, they teach you how to deal with pitch side management, how to deal with players on the pitch, how to deal with an injury, whereas physios, they don't really have that pitch side knowledge from what I know. I don't know if it's changed in the 3 years that I was at uni to what it is now, but when I do speak to the physios, they tend to do a thing called an ITMIF, which is with the FA, so it's like a intermediate trauma course, so you get to see a little bit more on how to manage pitch side stuff. But yeah, I think the main difference that I've notice is it's we deal with more sports people, sports injuries, whereas a physio can deal with sports injuries general. If you, for like, I don't know, my mum for example had like a bad shoulder, she'll go and see a physio, whereas she wouldn't really necessarily come to a sports therapist, even though we can deal with the same people. But if someone come to me and said, oh, I had a stroke, like, or they obviously wouldn't come to me and say that, but if they were like passed on to me, I wouldn't know how to deal with someone who's had a stroke compared to someone that had an ACL reconstruction, whereas a physio can do both. So they've got a little bit more of a wider skill set in the sense that they can deal with everyone, but putting them onto a football team, netball team, basketball team, it's a little bit, I don't know if they've got just as much knowledge as what we do.
Yeah.
Not saying that they're not as good as what they do as us, but in all fairness, I think a physio has more knowledge, more power in that sense, because they've dealt with so many in their time in the NHS. So you do see sports injuries in the hospital. People do go in with a blown up grade 3 hamstring tear, and the first person they go and see is a physio. They don't know, because sports therapists are just classed as physios. Yeah. You don't know who's what these days anyway. So like if I didn't say I'm a sports therapist today, you probably just would have went with I'm a physio.
Phys.
Yeah. So I think that's the thing. Like if you don't say it, people won't sort of know. But well, I mean,
at least we've got that cleared up. But Sophie, everyone, guys, just no, I really just want to say thank you for your time. I really felt like, you know, there are some questions I really want to know the answer to, obviously from a woman's perspective, which you gave that, and I feel like it's gonna help a lot of women come through, because I feel like there's so many women that get into women's the men's game, and they're just so oblivious to like some of the things that happen. Is like they're more accepting of things they shouldn't be accepting of. Mm-hmm. And it would be nice if they have someone who can, like, you know, tell them how it's going to be. And obviously you've done that today. So thank you for your time.
You're welcome. Thank you for having me.
I mean, if we cross paths on, you know, match day, you play for Grays, I'm at Tooting. Who knows? We'll see. Cool. Nah. But apart from that, guys, thank you for tuning in. Make sure you like, comment, subscribe, share, watch all the videos, and we'll look back to having you guys in a bit. Peace.